Coming up on Network Africa, aid agencies around the world send relief material to survivors of Cyclone Idai in Mozambique, Zimbabwe and Malawi. At least 50 people burnt to death in Ghana after two buses collided in Kintampo town in the central region. And South Africa continues its preparations towards May's elections. Hello and welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Teniola Shoboale. We begin in Ghana with devastating news coming in where at least 50 people are said to have been killed after two buses collided at Kintampo town. Police say the bus caught fire and most of the passengers in both vehicles died at the scene. A number of them with varying degrees of injuries have been rushed to the hospital. Others are said to be trapped in the two vehicles and are yet to be rescued. Well, now let's bring in Ghanaian journalists to shed some light on the situation. Hello, thank you for joining us on the program. I mean, it's a truly tragic story. Give us an update on the situation. We're having issues connecting with that Ghanaian journalist, but we will try and reconnect. But in the meantime, let's move on to some other stories. Aid agencies from around the world have been coordinating relief efforts in the Beira area of northern Mozambique following the devastating cyclone Idai. While the sun is shining at the moment, the water levels have not dropped yet, and there is more water coming in from Zimbabwe. Bad news for the people that are still stranded. We don't have that report just yet, but in the meantime, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has declared Saturday and Sunday as days of national mourning to honor those who lost their lives after Cyclone Idai. The president spoke about the ongoing relief efforts in the devastated southeastern part of the country. He hailed Zimbabweans for helping in relief efforts, especially in the town of Chimanimani, which was devastated by the storm. He says the country has secured enough food aid to cater to all the people affected while on a tour of the flood-hit Eastern Highlands region. He also received pledges for support from several African countries. Volunteers have been working around the clock to pack food, water and clothing dropped off at numerous collection points across the country.
To be honest, it's what Zimbabweans do. You know, as soon as any of our people are in a crisis, we band together and we come to help wherever we can. It's what Zimbabweans are made of.
The victims themselves their lives have been changed in so many ways, and so this obviously a meal here and there and some medical help now is what we're providing, and we would like to help long term, but it's going to need bigger funding for getting housing developed, and that's going to be a long-term project that definitely needs to be looked into by our community. And the Zimbabwe community is phenomenal. I have been blown away by the generosity of the people of Zimbabwe. So I'm sure they can do more than just an initial crisis management.
Now here in Nigeria, some health experts as well as the Enugu state government are worried over an increase in the neurological disorder in the state. For this reason, the state government, through the Commissioner for Health, says the government has set up a program that will help reduce and tackle rising trend of cases. Meanwhile, 8 beneficiaries with varying critical conditions have benefited in the just concluded free surgical operation in the state.
Neurological disorder is one of the major causes of mortality, which, according to the World Health Organization, constitutes 12% of total deaths globally. In developing countries like Nigeria, factors such as increase in population, change in dietary habits, high rate of obesity, and increasing cases of central nervous system infections are said to be contributory to the high mortality rate. This, perhaps, is the reason for this neurological mission by Swedish experts in partnership with the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital to train neurosurgeons and nurses specialized in this field.
Because of the fact that the causes of brain disease is variable, it will be difficult to say what is responsible in some cases. But in a lot of cases, we can actually find out what is causing it. For instance, it can be infective, it can be as a result of infections. Sometimes it can be as a result of trauma, and sometimes it can be as a result of tumors.
New equipment are also donated to the University Teaching Hospital, out of which an MC4 operating microscope is used to treat 8 out of 25 patients with critical neurological cases at the spot.
We have a steady contact discussing cases and stuff like that. So we are always like a backup to have somebody to have a second opinion of things. So that's very useful also. So my first thing I have to do when I get back home is to get like new funds for another missions, and I also contact the right colleagues that are experts in the right fields.
What we must ensure is sustainability, maintenance, training and retraining of the doctors to be sure they are proficient in using the machine. Provided this machine is here and those that should use them know how to use them, you keep using them to operate on the patient. So governments can assist us to ensure that, we are able to maintain this equipment, train our biomedical engineers to be able to troubleshoot the equipment because as of today, if anything happens to this machine, we don't have the engineers to fix it here.
With the obvious lapse in the Nigeria medical healthcare system, more partnership like this, coupled with support from the government, will go a long way in reducing mortality rates caused by neurological disorder. Nkiru Ajogo, Channels Television News.
Now some breaking news coming in here in Nigeria. Nigeria's main opposition, the People's Democratic Party, may have just recorded its major victory against the ruling All Progressives Congress today. That's because the governorship election petition tribunal sitting on the September 2018 governorship election has nullified the declaration of Mr. Boyega Oyetola as the governor of Osun State. The tribunal has, however, asked the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to withdraw the return certificate issued to Mr. Oyetola and issue a fresh one to Senator Ademola Adeleke of the People's Democratic Party, having fulfilled the conditions of the law. The tribunal has dismissed the preliminary objection filed by the APC and the Osun State Governor, Boyega Oyetola, as well as INEC against the petition of the PDP and its governorship candidate. The 3 defendants filed the preliminary objection, claiming that the petition was incompetent and the tribunal lacks jurisdiction to hear it. In its ruling on the preliminary objection, a member of the 3-man tribunal, Justice Peter Oni, held that the petition was competent and the tribunal has jurisdiction to hear and determine it. Now, South Africans head to the polls on the 8th of May this year, and ahead of that, the participating political parties have publicly declared their commitment to the Electoral Code of Conduct. A record 48 political parties are vying in the national elections, and more than 26 million voters are on the roll.
Ahead of May 8th, the political stage is even more vibrant, with 19 additional political parties, more than in 2014. It's 48 parties this time for the national elections. Some are new, some are breakaways, some are in court against the other over hate speech. Some won't sing in some of the 5 languages of the national anthem, and others are at loggerheads internally over their candidate list. But they are all sharing the same stage here to fulfill the law and publicly declare commitment to the Electoral Code of Conduct.
The code mandates every party and candidate to publicly state that everyone has the right to freely express their political beliefs and opinions, to challenge and debate the political beliefs and opinions of others.
It is a great honor to pledge the commitment of the African National Congress.
We will respect all the rules and the conditions that are placed before us.
And make sure that your vote is respected by rejecting manipulation and intimidation.
On behalf of AZAPO, the flag bearer organization of the Black Panthers movement, the party of the Purple Cow, promise to abide by the Electoral Code of Conduct.
As the EFF, we always tell our members to use law of dialectics.
We pledge to do all what is required. However, we want also to be treated with fairness.
Apart from signing up to the Code of Conduct, representatives of the parties took turns in the ballot paper draw. This gives the order on the ballot paper, which will be printed and ready in the next 2 weeks.
Distinguished guests and compatriots, the Electoral Commission is on track and will deliver elections on the 8th of May. Now it is over to the political party leaders and candidates contesting this election to take the baton and play their important part in encouraging participation by voters and ensuring we have a successful, peaceful, tolerant, and credible electoral process.
26.7 million voters are on the register, 55% of which are women, 45% men, and 25 of them are youth. 29,334 diaspora voters will be voting in South Africa's 121 foreign missions around the world on the 27th of April. 35 observer institutions have been accredited for now, and special votes for the physically infirmed, the disabled, pregnant women, and essential service providers will be conducted on the 6th and 7th of May. The election debate issues still include jobs, the economy, fighting corruption, land redistribution or not, racial issues, the violent crimes in the country, and of course, the many views on immigration. It's less than 50 days to the election on May the 8th, and the electorate awaits. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
We're still covering the devastation from Cyclone Hidai here on Network Africa. And while the sun is shining at the moment, the water levels have not dropped yet. And there is more water coming in from Zimbabwe. Bad news for those people that are still stranded across 3 countries.
Aid agencies from around the world have been coordinating relief efforts in the barrier area of northern Mozambique following the devastating cyclone Idai. The main focus now is to get to those stranded communities outside of the Beira city limits. It is a challenge.
The vast water, it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4 kilometers. To reach communities is 30 kilometers of water. So to reach those vulnerable communities, the challenge is you can't take boats. You can't just take a barge in here and stuff, they're going to get stuck. The challenge is air support.
China has provided emergency humanitarian aid to the 3 southern African countries that suffered huge human and property losses from the disaster. The Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs said President Xi Jinping sent messages of condolences to Mozambican President Filipe Nyusi, Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa, and Malawian President Peter Mutharika. The Chinese community also in Mozambique organized donation events and worked with the local government to send relief goods to areas hit by the cyclone. Also in Malawi,
we have rice which was donated from the government Republic of China, rice, and there's also maize from the government of Malawi, plus non-food items like the plastic pails, buckets, blankets, and the reddish soya pieces.
The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs gives its figure.
In Mozambique, the official death toll has risen to at least 242 people, according to the government, but many areas remain inundated, and tragically, the counting of the dead will take some time. So we do expect the death toll to rise as that progresses. At least 65,000 people are sheltering in more than 100 collective sites across Sofala province, Manica province, Zambezia province, and Tete province. Those are the four most affected places. The majority of these people are staying in schools and churches.
While the sun is shining at the moment, the water levels have not dropped yet, and there is more water coming in from Zimbabwe. Bad news for those people that are still stranded.
You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Still ahead. Our Africa Tech segment discusses data protection laws in the country. Please stay with us.